I'm probably going to have to edit. It says I'm live, and welcome to HWA Neon. This is RAO Laster, and joining me today is Otangelo Grasso. How are you doing today, Otangelo?
Fine, thanks, and you.
I'm doing excellent. Now, what we're trying to do here is a debate without a moderator. So, what I'd like to first do is welcome Otangelo to my show, and thank you so much for being here and letting us be able to do this. And could you tell us a little bit about about who you are and what you believe?
Sure. I am a Christian. I converted myself in 1984. I was previously Catholic, and then I met a colleague at work which invited me to visit an evangelical church, which I did. And since I had already read the Bible, and I did believe already, but I had many questions. And at that community, I did meet people which actually were able to answering all these questions which I had. I did read the Bible, but didn't understand many things. And that people there, they take the time actually to explain me the gospel, why Jesus Christ died on the cross, and they invited me to take a decision to accept Lord Jesus as my Savior and Lord. And then they told me to think about it if I really did want to take this step. And then I thought about it, and I said to myself, well, I thought actually that I was already a Christian, but I didn't understand many things which they explained to me, and I said, well, I see no reason why not to take that step and to become born again. And 2 weeks later, this church all the weekends on Saturday, they had coffee meetings, and they invited people to go to the church and talk about all these things, and I went. And there I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. So that was a starting point. I remember exactly when it was. And that community was very important for me to start understanding all the core theology and beliefs of the New Testament. And I started to educate myself, reading books and everything. And my focus was always evangelism and reach out to others with what I was believing. And every Saturday, the church they had street.
Otangelo, if you could just please hold on. This was supposed to be more of an introduction, and we're kind of getting more into into the thesis and the belief. And I'm just going to take a moment to introduce myself to people who may just now be joining us, because this is a new channel.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm RAO Laster, and I'm here supporting the simulation hypothesis against Occam's razor. Besides my debate channel, I've also got the Humanist with Attitude political channel. I've also got the Coffins and Dragons anthology that I'm currently. I've got a short story in the collaboration, and it's all over the internet. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it directly through the seller, the Dragon Soul Press release. But besides that, I'm just debating the simulation hypothesis now and what it really means to the people who do think that it is the most likely explanation for reality. So without too much more introduction. I'm going to get you started on a 10-minute timer, Otangelo, and we're going to discuss our opening statements and what we believe and how it compares to Occam's razor, keeping in mind what we have to assume along with that. So you go ahead and get started, and I will let you know when you've got 30 seconds left. I'll give you a wave when you've got 30 seconds.
Okay. So I think what you want to discuss, Rao, is a very fundamental question about why is there something rather than nothing? Why are we here? Why do we exist? And I think a first point that we can agree on is that there are no absolute proofs about ultimate reality. We cannot reach that knowledge about what is true in the sense that we can prove what is beyond the big curtain, which is the universe. So all we can do is discuss our beliefs and why we believe the way we believe. So I do not regard belief or faith as something which is blind, but the result of a consistent epistemological research where we try to find out why we exist. And I am on that journey for 35 years, I would say. And what I started to believe when I was 18 years old is the same which I am believing now, 35 years later. So I believe that ultimate reality is best explained by a creator which revealed himself in the Bible. And today I support my belief not only with revelation through the Bible, but I believe that when we look at nature, all which is around us, and investigate that deeper, that this is consistent with the Christian worldview. This is basically what I believe, and I can back it up philosophically, theologically, and scientifically. And we can go into that during our discussion, if you like. So I think this is just to start. So I give the word to you.
All right, thank you so much, Otangelo. It was great to hear your opinion. It was great to hear your opening statements. I'm going to go ahead and reset the timer, and I'm going to discuss what I believe briefly, so that we can kind of get on point with each other. Now, I believe that the simulation hypothesis is more likely than not. The reasons that I believe, and first of all, the simulation hypothesis in itself is the idea that we are in a digital fabrication of a creator's reality. So in that sense, you and I have a common ground where we both believe in a creator. However, I believe that our nature is not necessarily the same as yours, in the sense that I believe that we have math and we have logic, the laws of logic, to determine what is more likely than not. And I choose not to discredit. However, I choose not to discredit without evidence to discredit. And that whichever I may not discredit, I kind of put on my own scale of likelihood. But I found for me the simulation hypothesis is true, based on the idea that we can conceive universes in our mind. If we assume all minds in this universe to be able to conceive universes the way yours and mine can, then we can assume that there are more universes of imagination, just based on the fact that there are several movies and pieces of fiction that a universe is created within the mind of a fan theorist. Now, we also had the existence of video games, which are products of a human mind. They are things that we have seen. They are things that we have determined can exist in our reality. Therefore, it is likely to exist that they exist in higher realities. We had the Planck constants, the smallest measurable units of time and distance. The Planck length and Planck time, which are directly representative of frame rate and pixelization. So what we end up with is the only assumption that we have to make is that our universe functions in the same manner that the other universes of which we know the nature of also function. So the only assumption that Occam's razor cuts out is that our universes work like the other universes we know of. And I'll concede my time. We'll go ahead and you can start questioning me on what I think of the simulation hypothesis and its likelihood. I'll give you 10 minutes for your cross-examination.
Well, I would like to make a simple question. What is the nature of the God you believe in?
I believe it is most likely entertainment. I don't have a certain amount of assertion, but I see, based on the universes we understand, most of these universes are created out of a path of entertainment.
Okay, but you didn't respond to my question. What nature does the Creator have that you believe in?
I can't assert its nature. We live within this plane of reality, and to assert that nature is to have first-hand experience without being able to conclude that it wasn't a hallucination. I can't conclude that anything that I have seen wasn't a hallucination. Therefore, I can't confirm the nature of what my God is. What is beyond this universe. I can simply state that I believe our universe to be created and to be of a digital nature.
I think it is interesting that based on physics, our universe is made based on mathematics. So the formulas that we see in the physical laws, they are beautiful, and they have been discovered. And there is just a handful of formulas which are necessary to describe the nature and the physical laws of the universe. And there are many physicians which say that God used beautiful mathematics to make the universe. So I actually made even a video on that on my channel on YouTube.
Just one moment. Could you go ahead and give a plug for that channel, please, just so people can get a hold of you and see what you believe, because I'm sure you're going to have people sharing this after you debate it.
Yes, the name is Intelligent Design Academy on YouTube.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Now I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue.
So I just recently uploaded a video asking if the physical laws point to a creator, and my
Okay, now
conclusion.
this one more thing. This isn't something that we're arguing. I believe that for our universe to be of a digital nature, then it has to be based on a system of mathematics. So if we could get more to a question where it separates what Christianity would be from what has to be excluded from Occam's razor.
Well, I think Occam's razor is in some cases interesting to be applied in order to not use more complex explanations than just necessary. Okay, so I don't know how far you get with that point of interrogation or with that thought, but it is used in science, and I think it's logically agreeable that we should not search for explanations which are more complex than just needed. Now, I don't think that just that brings us very far in regards to elucidate the nature of that creator and his intentions in regards of why he created the universe.
Well,
And
that gives us plenty of ground to work on. I am assuming that my creator is some type of computer programmer. I assume that my controller is some type of video game player or somebody who is interacting with a simulation. So it gives us plenty that not plenty that we need to assume, but plenty of what I believe our nature to be based on. I myself believe that we are, because of the fact that we can investigate things like the Mandelbrot set, or we can imagine infinitely smaller than the Planck lengths, the Planck time and the Planck length. I think because we can imagine further than that, then we are organic minds within a digital universe. So we have plenty of things that I believe, but we don't have much that we have to assume based on my beliefs. All we have to assume is that our universe functions the same way as the universes with which we are familiar.
Okay, I see your point. I think the big question mark in your thought is what real evidence do you have that our existence is just a video game or a simulation?
Well, the evidence that I have was something discovered by Sylvester James Gates. He's a theoretical physicist who works with superstring theory. He worked under Obama's science. He worked under Obama when in Obama's cabinet as the science director. Basically, I don't remember the exact title right now. And when he was looking into the mathematics of the fabric of the universe, he discovered strings of ones and zeros that were identical to the error-correcting code that we see in today's simulations and search engines and AI. So what we're seeing is a replication of technology, in my opinion.
Well, what I know is that string theory is not much accepted amongst physics. today. So I am not very familiar, and I think they actually even say that nobody really knows what that string theory consists of. So it seems everything very vague to me, and I cannot get the clear picture out of what this is about.
Well, superstring theory has begun to take the place of string theory, but the basic idea of it is that all the subatomic particles that make up our existence are based on the their vibrations on one continuous link. Now, I don't agree with everything that superstring theory has to say. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm probably giving people radio feedback like hell. But what superstring theory does is it takes the math and tries to figure into what's going on. And with the simulation hypothesis, especially with the work that quantum gravity research has done, what we're seeing is that the math works even if the theory isn't complete. Could you hold on a second? We're at 9:15 right now. I'll go ahead and give you the rest of your time here in just a second. I'm going to find some headsets so I'm not distracting my viewers.
Okay.
I am so sorry about that, but we are back on now, and I'll give you another 45 seconds for a question, and then I'll go ahead and answer it for you.
What I thought is that string theory does not presuppose a creator, but that it is actually in some sort of random shuffling of trials and errors to get the right conditions to have the start of the universe.
Alright, now with superstring theory, what you're talking about still is you're trying to recreate the right parameters. And by trying to recreate the right parameters, you're trying to look for something that is observable and testable. So we're just going with an origin based on what we can recreate and making that a tentative best decision. Now with that, I'm going to go ahead and reset the clock, and I'm going to begin to ask you some questions and see what you can see how you explain your belief based on your opening statement. Now, first of all, you ask, what can we prove? How can we base what we can prove on your worldview and compare it to Occam's razor?
And what is your question?
Okay, what do you believe the age of our universe is?
I have shifted from older creationism to younger creationism, and today I believe that the universe and the earth are young. I don't know exactly the exact age. The Bible says about 6,000 years. So I am fine with that framework.
Okay, so in doing this, are you ignoring the electromagnetic and radiological scans that we've done on the sun to determine the mass of the core of the sun and determine at what rate hydrogen would be fused to helium to create the amount of helium at the core of our sun to determine the lifespan of our sun has been roughly 4 to 5 billion years? Are you going to say that are you going to assume that the electromagnetic and radiological scans are wrong? Or are you going to assume that the Bible is wrong?
Well, I cannot give you just from my head an answer to that. What I can tell
No,
you is that
okay.
starlight
No, you can
problem
give me an
has
answer to that.
been.
Give me one moment, please. I'm going to give you the question in a simpler term. Um, do you believe the Bible is right in saying that our universe is 6,000 years old? Or do you believe that the electromagnetic and radiological scans, two things, are right? That say our universe is or that say our sun is about 4.5 billion years old. Which of those do you believe? The 6 billion year old sun or the 4.5 billion year old sun?
The starlight problem has been a traditional one, and
We're not talking about
many.
stars here, just the sun.
Well, what you are questioning is the time that it takes for light to reach the Earth,
No,
and
no, that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about the electromagnetic and radiological scans that we have done on the sun. The to It's basically like the sonar that submarines use. We hit the sun with those, and what we get back is different sound waves and different radio waves and different light waves that come back based on density. And these are experiments that we have done, and this is how we've shown that the sun has turned this much hydrogen into this much helium. And if it would have started at pure hydrogen, it would be this old by now. And we've come to that, and we've come to those measurements to be about 4.5 billion years. So now you have to assume that all these calculated figures we've done are wrong, or you have to assume that the Bible is wrong.
Well, I have not studied that issue which you are mentioning right now, so I cannot give you an informed reply on that point. I also, since there are various interpretations of the Genesis account, there are older creationists which make an interpretation in Genesis and say it's perfectly acceptable, or it can be interpreted that Genesis says that the Earth and the universe is old, and there are others say, well, the interpretation doesn't permit that. So I think it cannot be said based on what you just mentioned now. Oh, the Bible and Genesis are wrong because there are different interpretations. But I repeat, I have not studied this issue which you just mentioned right now, so I cannot give you an informed reply on that. And if there is evidence which overweights the evidence of a young Earth interpretation, then I am perfectly fine to accept an older interpretation and go back to that. But at this point, I am fine with the young Earth interpretation.
Well, if you'd like to do some more research into it, it's the basis of nuclear fusion, and it shows how nuclear fusion would be aged appropriately according to the mass and radiological scans of our sun. So just go ahead and look up nuclear fusion within our Earth's sun, within our Earth star, and you can find plenty of information that'll lead you that way. Now, the other question was we had, why do I believe? So I'd like to get into that more with you. Is why do you believe?
Well, there are many lines of reasoning. I mean, the main two tenets for me are direct revelation through the Bible, and the second one is natural world, which, in my view, points with extremely high security and probability that the universe and life were created. So these are the two lines of evidence that bring me to conclude and to believe that there is a creator, and I believe that the Bible is true for many several reasons, and I outline them on my virtual library, and they can be seen here, there. I mean, the Bible.
Well, we're not
Has
talking about your
evidence.
library right now, and we both conceded that we believe that there is a creator. I prefer to refer it more to as a programmer, while you refer to it as a god. But I believe it is godlike. Now, what I'm asking you, since you are specifically Christian and we are not debating whether or not there is a creator, why do you believe that the Christian God is the God that you believe?
Basically because of the Bible and the New Testament. And there are many lines of reasoning that point to the Christian God. I would say fulfilled prophecies in Christ, fulfilled prophecies of the New Testament, which we see happening today, and there is historical evidence of the events described in the Bible, which can be investigated and permit to conclude they are true. There are personal experiences which I've done in this trajectory of 35 years. I have seen miracles occurring in front of me. I've participated at evangelism events where I have seen demons being cast out in the name of Jesus Christ. I have seen many people giving testimony about their experience with the God of the Bible, with Jesus Christ. I have seen people experiencing miracles. So, as I said, there are many kinds of evidence that converge to the same conclusion. And that conclusion is that the Christian God is the true God.
All right, we are getting into the end of time here, so I'm going to get you to go ahead on our questions, and I'll be responding to your questions at this point.
What do you think about the God revealed in the Bible, and specifics about Jesus Christ? Is he the one he said to be the Son of God? God himself, creator of the universe and the earth? If not, why don't you believe that?
Alright, I am going to break out my King James Bible that I have a copy of right here, and I'm just going to go directly to Genesis 1:1. And in Genesis 1:14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And let them be lights in the firmament of the heavens, and the light giveth unto the earth." And it was so. That was 15. And in Genesis 1:16, and God made two lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser to rule the night, and he made the stars also. So now what we see here is a direct contradiction of what scientific knowledge has to state, because scientific knowledge states that we have a 13.7 billion year universe. And mind you, this is all tentative, and many scientists now believe that the universe is older than we actually believe it is. So we now have to assume that our observations and our measurements are wrong for the Bible to be right to say that our sun and moon, especially our moon, considering the fact that it is made of the harder, more dense elements that wouldn't exist until after the first stars existed. Now we have to assume that heavier elements existed before lighter ones, when we wouldn't have to assume that the lighter elements would be made first. So that is why, just within the first chapter of your Bible, I think the simulation hypothesis has more ground over the Christian Bible, because I now already have to make more assumptions rather than accept physical evidence.
Well, I think that the Bible can be interpreted in various ways. There are questions to which I do not have an answer. There are open questions, scientific questions, philosophical questions, things that I don't understand. But I see it that way. That I put everything on a balance. And I weighed the evidence for with the evidence against, with the things that I don't understand. And I think that the weight of the positive evidence pointing to the Bible being true is far greater than the things that I don't understand where science says something that apparently contradicts what the Bible says. I mean, if you see 100
please.
How can you trust science in such a way that you prefer it to the Bible? When science changes constantly, and what today is regarded as true, tomorrow suddenly it isn't so true anymore. So why is science so much more important to you than the Bible?
It's because science is based on math and the laws of logic, and that which is observable, demonstrable, and repeatable. And the reason that I put math over the Bible is because math is a constant. Whereas I've used this example before, but if you were to say Dillahunty, or I'm sorry, I messed that up completely. If you were to say we tend to explain things based on other things we understand, Matthew 8:13. That sounds like a Bible verse, and somebody could interpret it as a Bible verse. But I was actually quoting something that Matt Dillahunty said on The Atheist Experience in August of 2013. So just based on that, based on spoken language, we cannot assert that we are correct when spoken language can have two different translations. Mathematics always has one translation as long as you know the starting point. And by starting point, I mean a numerical system, just like binary, decimal, dozenal, base 20. Just different numerical systems that you can use for counting. As long as you have the translation, you can know the mathematics. And that's why I trust math over the Bible, is because math is based on numbers and the Bible is based on a language that you and I, speaking the same language, can have a misinterpretation of what those words mean.
I get your point, but I think that if you actually analyze the Bible as a whole, and even if there are supposed to be some translation, I wouldn't say errors, but difficulties, I think that the Bible, even with translation and with the eventual errors or so, it draws a very clear picture about the nature of the Creator. And I've recently released a video on my channel. Does the Kalam cosmological argument point to the God of the Bible? And when you see all the characteristics that the cause of the universe must have, and then compare it with the description of that creator in the Bible, then it matches nicely. Like it must be eternal, infinite,
Silly
omniscient,
question here.
and all that. So would you not agree that this is also a nice evidence that confirms actually that the Bible is true?
No, I wouldn't, because not only does the Kalam not account for things. Now, you're going to have to add more into Occam's razor for this. You're going to have to assume, you're going to have to assert that time travel is impossible. Because I've got my own Kalam cosmological argument. Everything has a cause. The universe is a thing. We cannot assert time to be linear. Therefore, the universe has a cause that is not required to precede the effect that is the universe. So now all we have to do is add in time travel, and the Kalam is destroyed to explain the Christian God. There are several other worldviews that explain things, that have their own worldviews, that have knowledge of this, and you have to discredit all of those, and you have to assume that all of those are false for your worldview to be correct. Now, I have to do the same thing with mine, but I have more present, everyday, observable evidence that I am more likely than not to be right than a bunch of books have that they are asserted to be right.
Right. Well, first of all, the Kalam doesn't say that everything has a cause. It says that everything that began to exist has a cause.
Right, I gave you my interpretation of the cosmological argument. The Kalam says that everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe must have had a cause. And that does not take into consideration the problem of infinite regress.
Well, you can't have an actual infinite regress. So you can have a complete eternity which is complete already, but you can't have a progressive eternal regress.
You're actually sitting on 11 minutes right now, and I think it's time for me to get into the questions. We're going to follow that by more of an open discussion, and we're going to see if we can get anything out of the live chat for us to for a Q&A more objectively. So I'm going to start with what you said in your opening argument about the things that we see in nature and how you can't explain them. That just means that they don't have an explanation yet, which is an argument from incredulity. And what I see is the foundation to an explanation within the Fibonacci sequence. The seashell, the snail shell, a spiral galaxy, the shape that dishwater makes when you let it slow drain, with the plug almost kind of open to where it only slowly drains, all make extremely similar shapes. And I'm basing this purely on mathematics. And I don't have to assume anything except for the universe controlling ours is affected in the same manner as our universe, based on based on repeating fractalization. Now, for you to assume that a God micromanages 6,000 years old for something that, according to mathematics, works on a 13.7 billion year old timescale from what we know of, how do you justify not cutting divine intervention from Occam's razor?
Well, as I said before, I don't think that the question about if the universe is young or old is something that denies the existence of the God of the Bible. So, and I think we are on the same line. I think that the Fibonacci structures we see in nature are a nice evidence for a creator. What we are just maybe in discordance or not on the same line is about the nature of that creator, who he is. In regards of that, the teleological argument has its limits. It demonstrates that there is a super intelligent mind behind everything. Now, in regards of who that creator is, that is, I think, the point of interrogation, which we can elaborate together. But in regards of Fibonacci and mathematics, I agree fully with you that the universe is based on mathematical formulas. The laws of physics are so the Fibonacci structures as well point to a creator, and so I am
this is not something that we're arguing. My question here is that the mathematics that I think into, the mathematics that I believe to be correct, are following a 13.7 billion year old universe. While you're saying that mathematics are absolute, but then you have to assume that mathematics aren't absolute when it comes to when God said the earth is 6,000 years old. So now we have to cut something else out with Occam's razor. And the only thing that we have had to cut out with Occam's razor thus far with the simulation hypothesis is the only thing we have to assume is that our universe functions the same way as other universes of which we are aware. So, now, could you imagine can omnipotence and omnibenevolence exist simultaneously?
Well, first of all, I want just to repeat that if the universe is indeed 13.7 billion years old, that doesn't disprove the truthness of Genesis. There are different interpretations, and I've assumed that the universe and the earth may be that old, that doesn't change in any way my belief in the Christian God.
Alright, now when you say that, you are assuming that an all-powerful, all-knowing God would not be able to create the first chapter of their book in a way that mankind was able to universally understand it. So, was God underestimating mankind, or are you underestimating God?
I think that for my belief, that question isn't that relevant at all. So,
I think it's extremely relevant. You're talking about an all-knowing God who would know that you and I would be having a conversation about this exact chapter 5,000 years after, 6,000 years after it was written, according to you. And if he knew we were going to have this conversation and knew people were going to misunderstand him, then why would he have not written it in a more concise way that wouldn't have been able to be universally interpreted if we have an all-loving God who didn't want people to commit wars?
I think that is a valid question. I don't disagree with you. As I said previously, there are things which I do not understand, and of which I am quite confident that during my lifetime I won't understand them. But as I said also previously, I put on weight what I do understand, the positive evidence of the Bible, compare it to the things which I do not understand, and in my view, the things which I do understand and which convince me are far overweighting the things which I do not have an answer to. So I don't say that I understand. Based on my Christian worldview and belief, I have answers to every question. I don't. So I think that answers your point.
If you don't have all the answers and Christianity isn't providing all the answers, but Christianity has a truth claim, wouldn't it make more sense for you to take the things you don't know and explore them from multiple sides rather than assert that the Christian view is right first?
Well, I think the right epistemological approach when you put rationality first is that you start from an agnostic standpoint, and from there you start to explore the answers, and then try to find the best answers. And in my case, I am very open, very honest about that. It wasn't that way. I came to Christianity not based on reason, but based on pain, based on the fact that I went through when I was a teenager, through depression, and I tried to find a way out, and did find my way out, starting to pray, and slowly that went away. Then, as I said in the beginning, I started to visit evangelical church, find my answers there, and then in the dialogue with atheists, I had to find answers to their inquiries, and that was basically slowly the starting me to investigate science, philosophy, all that kind of stuff. And basically today I continue with my view even after doing all that research. Now you can say that I am biased, and I think yes, I am biased, and I am.
When you're talking about depression, you come across a completely different scenario where I have depression. I am anti-Abrahamic. I specifically turn against the God of the Bible, even though I'm not atheist. And my depression is doing better this year than it has during any other time, simply because even though I'm not atheist, I can communicate with them based on science and math and reason. So you're comparing your curing of depression through Christianity of my curing of depression through association with atheism and through finding out other people believe in the simulation hypothesis. So nothing has to be assumed here that depression comes with finding people who believe like you. Now, we have just finished the 10-minute segment of the last cross-reference. And I have a person in the YouTube live feed who's actually been asking a couple of questions. She's asking, what about the difference between free will and an all-knowing God? Can a person have free will if God already knows what they're going to do?
Yes, I think so. Because he knows what the future is, but he doesn't direct my decisions. I can freely choose what I want to do, even God knowing what it is. So he's all knowing.
Okay, now is your God omnibenevolent?
Yes.
Okay, does your God prefer rapists or rape victims?
I've never thought about that question. What I believe is that God
Now,
loves.
hold on. This is an important question, because now we are coming into mortal versus metaphysical free will. When we get into mortal versus metaphysical free will, your God has the power to interfere with a rapist's free will in order to prevent a rape. If that God does not act to prevent that rape, then the rapist is imposing a lack of free will over the rape victim. So, is it more important for a rapist to lose free will, or is it more important for a rape victim to lose free will? Who has precedence here? Who should not lose their free will, the rapist or the rape victim?
I think first of all, what we have to understand is that love is only possible when there is free will. I cannot create a robot which will love me. And that means that either God gives me absolute free will, and then I am able to love, or he restricts.
So are you denying the existence of divine intervention?
I think that in some cases God does intervene in like
so if God can intervene, then he prefers rapists over rape victims in the aspect of rape. When rape happens and he's able to intervene, then he is choosing a rapist over a rape victim.
Well, let's suppose that God intervenes in one case. Why doesn't he intervene in another case? That means that he would be obliged to intervene in all cases. That means that he would have to intervene in any case of violence or
and he's omnipotent, so why doesn't he? According to you, why doesn't he just make sure that our challenges are not of... I get challenged. I was getting challenged when I was in high school. All the time. I was being challenged by the material at hand. It provided me to strive for better. I did not have to become tortured in order to want to strive for better. There is absolutely no objective morality regarding rape. Rape is objectively immoral. It serves nobody except for the rapist. Therefore, if rape is objectively immoral and the Christian God is objectively moral, then the Christian God should stop every rape.
Well, I said, if he would do that, then he would remove free will in our lives. And that would mean that you and I and the rapist and everybody else, they would turn out to become robots programmed only to do good. And when this happens, then you remove the ability of love. And that's simply what God didn't want.
That's not what you do at all. I would think that if there was only good here, then there would only be love here. But we're getting another question in right now. Um, for you, what about the story of Jonah and the fish?
It can have happened, or maybe it's just an allegory, an allegorical history. I don't know.
And then again, we're getting into what is metaphorical versus what is literal. And by asking what in the Bible is metaphorical versus what is literal, what you're essentially doing is you're discrediting the entire Bible because you're saying that it all may be metaphorical. And if the whole thing is a metaphor, then you have no grounds to base your belief on because you're basing your entire belief on a metaphor.
No, I don't think so, because there are many, for example, Jesus, he spoke very frequently in a metaphorical way, and it's obvious that some parables that he told, everybody understood that they were parables. So I think we can make this distinction between what is metaphorical and what is not.
When we move into the Gospels, what can we trust that has been said by the authors of the Gospels, who we knew weren't the original apostles, but were stories based on the teachings of the original apostles? When you ask me, when you say that the Gospels are the Word, how can we determine what the authors wrote as metaphorical according to what is literal? If I were to help a blind person across the street, would I, for a few seconds, not help them to see? If I were to learn sign language, would I be able to not let the deaf hear? If I push an old man in a wheelchair across the street, am I not helping the deaf walk? How are we to define what is a metaphor and what isn't?
Well, the healing miracles described in the Gospels, they are very detailed, and I believe that Jesus made in fact these miracles to demonstrate that he was God. Now he also made
I just discussed a literal, tangible explanation of 3 healing miracles. I can give you another one. In this case, we're going to talk about Legion. Have you ever not had a friend who has said, it feels like I've got 30 voices in my head and none of them will shut up right now because I'm getting pulled in every which direction? Usually because some chick dumped them and they found out on, when they got home early from work. So, now, if a dude is coming at you with, I came home early from work and I found out a coworker came to my house earlier from work and I've got 30 different voices in my head right now, would you sit down and talk to the dude?
Maybe I don't know. I think it depends very much on the specific situation.
I would at least sit down and talk to the dude to make sure I was preserving the safety of not only him, but, the second and third wheel. I would at least make sure that nobody was going to come to harm, and I would at least listen to them. And I could understand how they would believe they would have 30 voices going on in their head right then. So I can understand that somebody would listen to somebody and understand what they're going through and drive that insanity out of somebody just by talking to them. And so what you're saying is when a metaphor and something literal have to be figured out, you're saying the entire Bible may be literal, the entire Bible may be metaphorical, and none of us are to know that. So it is best to take the entire thing as metaphorical, because when you start taking it as literal, you get into sanctioned rape.
Well, I didn't say that the whole Bible is literal, metaphorical.
Right, and what I'm saying that is that you have to take the entire Bible is literal or the entire Bible is metaphorical, because when you open it up to translation between the two, you allow for the possibility of sanctioned rape. You are allowing that a rapist can buy a woman from her father for 3 goats and 5 shillings.
Well, I don't know what to reply to that. I think that the moral code is very
we've already been on.
It is very clear. And if you I see it very often by atheists accusing the God of the Bible as a rapist, as a monster. These kind of descriptions that
because he condones those behaviors.
And my reply is always following to that. First of all, the first command that Jesus says is love your next, love your neighbor as yourself. That is the first command. Together with love God with all
Okay,
your
so
heart.
as a neighbor, hold on. When you say love your neighbor, hold on. Since we don't know how far to take something literally or metaphorically, when you say neighbor, do you mean the person who lives next door to your house? Do you mean the person who owns the land that is next door to your house? Or do you mean the person that is next to you, or do you mean your fellow human being? Right now, we're dealing with 4 different definitions of neighbor, and one of them could strictly mean love the person who owns the property next to the property you own.
I think that is very general. That we should love. And the Bible said that God is love. That is one of His main characteristics.
And the God of the Bible also said, if somebody sleeps with another man as they do a woman, put them to death. So that is not unconditional love. That is not love. That it is not love to destroy an entire population. It is not love to kill all the members of 2 cities. If He is omnipotent, He would be able to soften their hearts as He hardened Ramses' heart. So you're saying He's capable of hardening a heart but not softening a heart, and therefore you're contradicting your definition of omnipotence.
Well, I think the term omnipotence must be defined. That's the first point. God cannot create a square, circle, and illogical things. Now, secondly, the laws of the Old Testament, they were made for a specific situation, for a specific fall, and I mean the discussion about if it was justified for God to send the Jews to eradicate the Canaanites and so on. This is something that others can discuss with much better insight than I can. What I know is that these folks they had 400 years to stop doing their practices like burning their children and offering them to their gods like Moloch and so on. So these were very vile folks which did gruesome things, and God didn't want that the Jews would contaminate themselves.
So why did He just not change their minds rather than destroy them completely? But besides that it's this is kind of a non sequitur. But we have another question in the live chat that did you know that the Noah's flood story was actually predated by a very similar flood story in the Epic of Gilgamesh?
There are good videos, inclusively. I did post one on my timeline on Facebook that there is some comparisons about the timeline of the Egypt story, which they say the pyramids were built before the flood, and so on. And in these videos, they go very detailed into examining these timelines. I'm not qualified to do that, so I'm not the right person to give you detailed reply on that.
Well, Otangelo, I've noticed that a lot in this. You've been telling me that you're not qualified to give you an opinion on this. I sincerely hope that you start looking into some of these things. I want you to look over this video when we get done, after you're able to get it on your own channel. Go ahead and look over it and see if there's anything here that you wanted to look up, or if that you were interested in, that might lead you to figuring out a better truth for you.
Well, I am very fine and settled with my views. Anything that you have brought up so far isn't a reason to question my views in a sense that I doubt about them. Absolutely not. And I would say to you, do the same. Don't just look on the apparent contradictions or things that you do not understand in the Bible, but put also the things that you do on weight and examine them. And there are many things that, in my view, conspire to believe what is in the Bible. And I hope that you are open-minded enough to do so, and eventually remove a little bit of your skepticism based on the things that you think that are not sound.
All right, Otangelo. I've had a wonderful time talking to you today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Sure, thank you very much for the conversation. And if you're interested, we can continue this on my timeline or so, and also see the feedback of other people, what they think about the questions that you brought up.
Oh, most definitely. Make sure to share it so your friends can jump in on the comments, and we might be able to hash it out with more people and get a more open perspective from it.
Absolutely. You will find people that have better insight on the questions that you raised. I have some links as well on this. And of course, on the written way, often it is much better to clarify some things than just on a talk. So I definitely I think it's worth to investigate all this kind of stuff and get a clear picture on it.
Alright, well, I'm going to get off here. I've got a couple of other things I got to get done here today. You have a wonderful day, Otangelo.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the chat, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.